Yeah. Check in with Ebony, Cancer sign her astrology. Time to vibe and connect through conversation and poetry. Speaking of all things, no topic is off the table. Giving hope, spreading love, channel the vibrations. Yeah, me, she, us, one and the same. Illuminating the dark, peace we will attain. Not a fantasy, elevating mentally.
Hey y'all, thank you for coming to Ebony & Co. And I have pretty much everything according to me, moi, Ebony. And I just wanted to get on here. I'm not going to be long, but of course I had to give my 2 cents in regards to Wendy Williams. And if you haven't seen the documentary on Lifetime, I highly recommend you check it out, especially if you was a fan of hers. If you've seen all the things in the news, I highly suggest you read the articles. Make sure you watch the documentary so you can form your own opinion in regards to the matter. And the reason why I really just wanted to address it, because I think everybody else provided their think pieces about it, their TED Talks about it. And oh my God, she should have never shown herself like this. And I think people are forgetting the core of it all. Yes, Wendy Williams, the woman we all have either loved or have a love-hate relationship or lack of thereof, or don't even know who I'm talking about. But I'm pretty sure you had an idea of who she was, right? Whether you was a fan or not. And over the past couple of years, since she has been fired from the Wendy Williams show due to her drug and alcohol habit. And now we know it was her health that also played a part in all of that as well. But on top of all of that, I kind of wanted to really speak on the addiction. I think a lot of people looked at, oh, she looks terrible. How dare she show herself looking like this? This is not the Wendy we all know to be, but this is what addiction looks like. And if you haven't been around someone of that caliber, you may not even have a clue. If you have been a fan of Wendy like myself, I have followed and watched her show. And of course, she is very good at painting good pictures, making things seem like, everything is great. And now that I've finished watching the documentary, I believe, in my opinion, that Wendy never stopped drinking. I'm sorry. I don't think she stopped. I believe, an addict to go through that, I'm pretty sure it's a very painful thing to actually admit to being. But I believe, again, that Wendy is very good at making things look good too. And I believe that this is as raw and real as she could get. But also, for those of you who do not know, this is addiction. The disease that it is, this is what addiction looks like. It is not cute. It is not funny. It is not entertaining. It is a monster, and it destroys everything that comes in contact with it, whether it be the individual who's dealing with the addiction and also the people around them. I say because I know. Unfortunately, I too dealt with my own brother who had a very bad alcohol problem, which I would talk about in another video. But in this light, I can see all of that. Everything that her family was going through, and with the conservatorship, and with all these effed up people in her circle, I think people fail to realize when you have an addiction problem of that magnitude, especially at the capacity she was drinking, most of the time addiction is wrapped in shame. You do not want to be around your loved ones. You do not want to be around people because you are ashamed and you don't want them to see you like that. So a lot of times they intentionally push people away that they love so they can be surrounded by people who do not care for them. Um, I call them cockroaches. I feel people who are intentionally around people who are in pain, who are going through things that people like Wendy is going through. If you watch the documentary, you see that her manager, Will, and also I believe her PR person, these are people, they all mirror the same. They are cockroaches. They are there to erode you of everything you have at your expense, and it's only going to cost you. These are people who have no morals. They are literally out for themselves, and that's exactly what the people who was around Wendy did. Between that manager and the PR person, they showed no no empathy, because if they did, or any type of morals, if they did show any of that, they would have never taken her on as a client. And to be honest with you, it's kind of hard to say take her on as a client when these are hustlers. These people mean you no good. The man was her former jeweler. That man knows nothing about management. He saw opportunity because he's a hustler, and he took it. The PR person looks like she could have been an intern out of somebody's community college on yesterday. The fact that she saw Wendy Williams up there in the health that she was, in the condition that she was in, and she continued to be or pretend to be delusional in exchange for a paycheck. Pretty much. She's not a good PR person. I don't even know who will hire her as a PR, because from a moral standpoint and from a business standpoint, why would you even want to hire people like that? But again, when you are dealing with addiction, the cockroaches come out, and they smell people, they seek them out. They know that these type of people are vulnerable, and they can get what they want out of them. In this case, money. So it makes me think about with Wendy Williams and the fall from grace of it all, right? And I do believe it's a combination of things that transpired, from my own personal opinion. And I do believe Wendy is someone, if you watch her show, she talked about, being bigger when she was younger, the depression that she went through, and just the insecurities of it all. And I feel like a lot of her internal grief with herself it stems from that. She talks about why she got the boobs, and how, let's be honest, ego played a part in it. Once she got this talk show, she always called out people who, made jokes about her when she was younger, people who probably dismissed her or thought she was just too big of a girl. She will always say, but look at me now. And again, hey, toot your own horn. Like, that's how you're supposed to do it. But I think at the same time, it allowed her to feel like she's a goody two shoe. It made it easier to hide. You know what I mean? It made her easier to, dress it up. You can easily dress up, an addiction. And even if you say, oh yeah, I did it, you know what I mean? But in long run, I realized I don't think she's never stopped. And there was a lot of telltale signs there where, of course, her husband, Kevin Sr., or ex-husband, let me say that. I get that what he did was wrong. Oh my God, like, I don't even know how I would feel if that happened to me. To be honest, something similar did happen, but that's another day, another story. But I say all that to say, the to the extent that he did, far as, I think at the time her mother also passed. You find out he got a kid. And again, Wendy puts on his face in his front, like, oh, you got your B pregnant, oh, divorce. And it's, again, she puts on the image. Behind closed doors, though, I think it was another thing going on. I think that deeply broke her. And I can only imagine like how that type of pain feels. But on one token, I feel like she was aware of his infidelities. And of course, you get anybody pregnant, it's embarrassing, because you can no longer keep the image going. You can no longer keep the front going, because at this point now you're embarrassed. So you kind of have to, you know, go separate ways. It kind of reminds you of Whitney Houston and the Bobby Brown situation. Whitney never wanted to leave him. And from what we've gathered after all these years, she was the one who introduced him to the drugs, right? Not the cookie cutter princess that everyone adored her for being, this vocalist. How could she be on drugs? Not Whitney. And in later years, we found out it was the opposite. But again, it got to the point where you couldn't just clean it up anymore. It didn't look nice anymore. It didn't fit the package. And I correlate them together because, of course, we know about a couple of decades ago when the infamous radio station, Whitney Houston chewing out Wendy about calling her out for her drugs and things that she was doing, just to find out Wendy was up here doing the same thing. Up here doing the same thing. But again, it's easy to paint a picture, make it look good, make it look cute, and nobody knows. And I think with Kevin Sr., what he did, his actions were deplorable. Like, you cannot discredit that. But on the same token, again, if you dealt with somebody in addiction, and it's easy for him to be the fall person, not saying he's not guilty, but he signed up, this is his wife. And if Wendy was continuing to do the things she was doing, and her family even admitted that he did help her make sure she was up and ready for work. And of course, I'm pretty sure he did a lot of that to make sure the money keep coming in for himself. But again, nonetheless, he made sure she got what she needed and she was being prompt and on time. I do believe he checked out. At some point, he checked out, despite his infidelities and his character. I think to deal with somebody on that magnitude, the way we've seen Wendy on that documentary, I can only imagine what it was like when she was, doing drugs and alcohol, on what that looked like, and the fact that they've stated there were encounters where you found Wendy unresponsive, and some of the things they didn't even disclose on the documentary, because I'm pretty sure it was way more, more of an in-depth moment that they did not want to disclose to the public, which indicates it was something very serious. And it just makes you think that despite of all his wrongdoing, to some degree, he had a valid point. People don't realize dealing with people in addiction on how heavy that can be, especially when it's someone you love, especially when, because you ain't gonna give up on them. You going to the wheels fall off because you don't want to see them hurt. You don't want to see them unalive themselves, or just in a predicament where they do unalive themselves. And it takes a toll on everyone involved. And as you can see on the documentary, I remember the clip when her son saw her at the restaurant, him and the nephew, and you can tell they looked at her like her eyes were bulging out of her head. And I think he was just trying to keep it together for the camera, but you can tell that he was very uneasy about seeing his mother in the condition she was in. And I can only imagine what that would feel like as a parent. But back to the addiction of it all, when you see all the clips from the documentary, you do see that when she was not drinking, she was a little bit more cognitive there. She was able to kind of have a little bit more of a conversation versus the moments when she was in her New York apartment and she was very clueless about what she was talking about, where she was, the incident with the driver. And it was heartbreaking because the Wendy we all know with the wits, she was very witty, and that's what made her very different. She was very sharp, very on it, with the comebacks. And just watching this whole documentary, you can tell that's not Wendy. And it's so sad, but it's so real. It is so real because this could potentially help other families see this, maybe in their own family, or maybe they seen other people like this, where maybe they will go get help and maybe that can spark a conversation to address an issue that people may not want to address. Because to some degree, when people get that bad, they are surrounded by enablers, people who would see them self-destroying themselves and do absolutely nothing about it. That is something I too know about firsthand. And it's, there's no guide on how to deal with things of that magnitude. When you see somebody like Wendy who has a conservatorship in place, which I do believe it does need to be in place. Right now, you really don't know who to believe. I do believe her song is too young and maybe a little immature to deal with that type of money. It would be gone. Yeah, it would be gone. Within her family, I do feel like her niece and her sister are genuine. The son, he seems to be genuine, but he's also attached to his father. And I just believe he's not gonna, if he had that kind of money, he's not gonna allow his father to be out on the street. So I kind of feel like he would give his father the money. It's his father, and I'm pretty sure Wendy would not want that, nor would her family. So he shouldn't be in control. But I do believe that brother of hers is a little sketchy. I don't know. He just seemed a little. I don't know. I remember a couple years ago, he's putting out videos only about Wendy, and I'm like, bro, don't you have a job? But nonetheless, I do feel like she does need to be with her family. From the documentary, you can tell that she lit up when she's around them. Although they did not allow her to drink, which is another thing. People, when they are, it's not even just the addiction. I think it's also the symptoms of a lot of the health related things that she has going on. And all of that is exacerbated times 10. And I think that those urges come, and you just can't even stop yourself. The fact that you're in this moment, whether she's present or not, you feel happy, you're around your family, your son, and all you can think about is drinking. It's just, again, I am not blown by how it looks. I've seen how addiction looks. I I think it would be a good element for other people to look at and learn from, and to know that, hey, everything ain't pretty. Everything is not pretty. Some things you just can't dress up, and that's what the truth looks like. That whole documentary is the truth. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, then I believe it did what it was supposed to do. Um, Far as Wendy and the conservatorship, hopefully, because it seems like they don't care about her mental well being. And that's what I really want to speak on, because I remember with my own brother, and I know with adults, there's no help out here for people who are in true addiction unless you have money, or, like most of these facilities can't keep people, which I get why, because it will cause people to just throw people away, and do inhumane things, or it could cause a number of things. But I feel like with addiction, there's no playbook. You know what I mean? Like it is beyond our skill set when it comes to loved ones to handle people in that capacity. And there's nowhere where you can like truly take them, if you know what I mean. Like they are beyond what a you and I could do, or what a family member could do. They need professional help. And yeah, there are facilities out there that say, oh, if you bring him here. But again, like most states and facilities, if they do not want to stay, they can go. I think in some states they have like maybe a 48-hour or 72-hour hold, if they have been showing like mental issues. But at some point it's beyond like help. Like it needs to be a place where, regardless of the time frame, and it's somebody in that capacity, they have to be in a 24-hour facility to give them the help that they need. Because there's no reason why Wendy should be in an apartment on her own free will when she is self-destructing. in the mental and health condition that she's in. There's no reason why she should not have been somewhere with 24-hour care or among her family. But again, it makes me think, like, if y'all can put this conservatorship over her money, then why are you not doing something to make sure she literally get the help she needs? And that's what I really wanted to address, because it made me think so much about my brother. I know I had a friend who went through it with her family member, and I just know a lot of people where there's no real help out here. You know what I mean? And this is how they get surrounded by people who don't mean them no good and take advantage of them. When these type of people, when it gets to this magnitude, they need medical help and treatment round the clock until they can be independent. And I have yet to find a place where you can do that for adults. And I feel like they wait till things get worse. Um, where people end up unaliving themselves, or life steps in and do the unaliving for them, or I just feel like things have to get so much worse in order for things to get better, and it shouldn't be, because the moment she starts showing these signs of cognitive health, she should have been in a facility, especially with her having the problem prior, and with the alcoholism. There's no reason why she should have not been a facility. And I just feel like the system is definitely corrupted for sure, and I'm pretty sure that's why the family wanted to showcase this in this nature, so people can see that it's the system, and it definitely needs to be addressed on a much bigger scale. So not just Wendy can get the help, but other people who are like Wendy and in the same condition, because addiction is real. Alcoholism is very much real, and it needs to be addressed on a much bigger form, because it is literally taking so many of our people, good quality people, who do not know how to cope. A lot of people do not have good coping mechanisms, and they rely on drinking. And I think we need to call it what it is. It is a disease, and it's as someone who dealt with that firsthand, it will destroy you. Not just the person who drank the alcohol, but the person who is surrounded trying to help these people, in that capacity. It definitely needs to be addressed. But overall, with Wendy Williams, I do truly hope she gets the help she needs, and she can make some type of full circle moment. She is only 59 years old, and she is young, and it seems like a lot of these health conditions started very early on, in her early 50s. That is young, and at the rate she's drinking, I don't know. I think, definitely say a prayer for her, but make sure we take Wendy's story as a cautionary tale to maybe address the things in our own lives. If you are dealing with something of this nature, if you have family, in this capacity, to make sure you're addressing it from all avenues. Do not just skate over it and think, oh, that's just them. It's a problem. It's a problem beyond words. But that's all my 2 cents about it. I did write a more in-depth, article about it on my website at ebonyandco.com. And always make sure you tell a friend to come over here and see about me. Leave some comments. Let's talk about what are your thoughts about Wendy Williams. And make sure you like, share, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. And until next time, bye.